The British public has grown increasingly dissatisfied with their political leaders. That's the gist of what Burnham said. The Economist looked at a variety of polls to come up with these averages. It shows support for Labour, that's the red line, dwindling to around 20% of voters over in last year and a half. John Rentoul is the chief political commentator for The Independent. John's with me now. Andy Burnham did a very good job of trying to rally this idea of we're all British together and together, but at the same time, he's making a lot of promises that will be hard to deliver upon.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Max put it very well. I mean, by appointing John Healey as Chancellor, he is implying that he accepts that John Healey was right when he resigned from the government, that the government was not spending enough on defence. So he's got to find billions more for defence spending over the sort of planning period. Right. Plus, Andy Burnham has been spraying out implied promises to fix social care, which is a big problem, care of the elderly. He wants to make that an NHS-like service, which means the taxpayer is going to pay for it. He wants to offer instant relief on the cost of living. I mean, by plucking money out of thin air, presumably. I don't know quite how he's going to fund that. And he's promising the biggest change in our politics for 40 years.
But John,
it's going to end in trouble.
You're not the first person to have said that. Martin Wolf, writing in the FT, was sort of very similarly saying if he doesn't get his books in order. But here's the real challenge in a sense. If he manages to get his own MPs on his side with his huge majority, he can wield that, even though there's only a few more years to the next election. If he manages to get his own party with him, he will be formidable at passing legislation.
Well, yes, but I mean, Keir Starmer was theoretically in that position. And the problem with Labour MPs is that they want to spend money. And they forced Keir Starmer to U-turn on several important spending commitments, which meant that Rachel Reeves had to put taxes up by even more than she'd already done in her first budget. So if John Healey in his first budget this autumn also puts taxes up by even more, I don't see that that's necessarily going to result in the government being more popular.
As a politician, though, is Andy Burnham more savvy and unlikely to make the sort of cataclysmic mistake of getting rid of the pensioners' winter fuel allowance, which really, there is an argument that would say Keir Starmer never really recovered after that. That and paying off the public sector workers, buying them off.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's very difficult to see what else he could have done with the public sector workers. I mean, he had to. I mean, they should have attached terms and conditions to those settlements, obviously. But the winter fuel payment assumed huge symbolic significance, and I can't believe it's just that people were unhappy about. I think there was a much more sort of general unhappiness, and I think it's just to do with the fact that the economy is not working very well. Taxes are extremely high. People are resentful about immigration, and I'm not sure that Andy Burnham's got any answers to any of those problems.
We'll find out. You'll help us over the years ahead. Thank you, sir. I'm grateful.